Good evening. Tonight on the Awareness Magazine TV show, we have Tracey Ash. Tracey Ash is an international speaker and teacher. She's also a book author, and she conducts tours in Egypt and Japan and throughout the rest of the world. So I would like to introduce our guest, Tracey Ash.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracey, for being here. First, let's tell our audience, please, a little bit about yourself and your past.
I'm from the UK. I came into this life as a child who could see, a child who was aware of metaphysics, very aware of the internal dialogue and agenda in terms of what was presented before me. So the words that adults spoke indeed were those words of truth or not. So from a very early age I was able to detect reality, detect truth. This also took me into detecting realities. I had many metaphysical experiences, contact experiences, mediumistic experiences, and I was able to predict future events as well.
That is wonderful. So that it just carried into your work as an adult.
As an adult, I was 17 when I was the gatekeeper for my grandmother's death, and that massively amplified my metaphysics, metaphysical abilities, metaphysical gifts.
Explain to our viewers, what is a gatekeeper, because not everyone understands that.
I think when an individual is ready to pass, they need to process their history, their life stories. I spent several months by my grandmother's side having tea and cakes and walking her through her history. And I dreamt her death. And I saw it as an immense sacred rite of passage, incredibly beautiful as well. When she passed, I was devastated, but
hard.
it opened incredible corridors in terms of me understanding the beyond.
Yeah. And what a wonderful gift to be able to spend that time with her and help her transition, even though it was very hard. As you know, we know that's always tough when someone transitions and we lose them here on this plane. So
absolutely. Yeah. It also brought many questions about my abilities. It also brought many confirmations in terms of knowing that there is existence beyond. And it took me into a journey of training, which took me to what was one of the finest organizations in the world, the College of Psychic Studies, the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain.
Oh, wow.
And I trained with some of the finest mediums and healers of last century. I was so fortunate enough to be able to see mediums working who had 50, 60 years of experience. Now, this was at a time when the gift of mediumship was something that was acknowledged and had been built and developed through dedicated individuals. So it created an incredible compass in which to follow and to really acknowledge and honor for the whole of my career, because I'm incredibly interested in not only this field, but if we're interested in this arena, i.e. healing, awareness development, spiritual development, consciousness beyond, what what is it that takes an individual into those gifts and demonstrating those gifts with immaculate and exceptional authenticity?
Yeah.
And that was my real standard in terms of my own training. And when I was a student, I would set my own goals in terms of my own standards for training, which constantly raised the bar. And that for me, in terms of my work, has been something I still work with to this day.
Yes, and you did. We were talking about the questions of on the mystery of existence and the whole, reality and existence. And
that's one of the questions that's propelled all of my work, driven all of my work. How do we answer those questions? How do we obtain a glimpse of the answers? And when we begin to gain a glimpse, it comes with it a vision and dreams of a very different reality, of very different realities. And I see our spiritual work, our spiritual training, as an essential tool in being able to resolve the world that we live in currently today. So we become more dynamic, we become more creative, we become more resourceful, we become more peaceful and still, so that we can acknowledge ourselves and the role that we play in creating the world and our communities and our families. There is such a strong argument for solid, authentic spiritual practice, because it takes us into incredible accountability and responsibility. And when we have individuals who are accountable and responsible and resourceful and creative, the world can change in an extraordinary way by ordinary individuals. And that's what fascinates me.
yes, and and to quote you, that we really need to go into a time and make sure we go from self-agenda into more of a worldly, more community agenda. Am I saying that correctly? I don't want to misquote you, but just to get away from just being stuck on oneself.
Well, that's an interesting subject in itself. What we inherit in terms of our programming, in terms of our conditioning, in terms of what we expect ourselves to be as a consequence of absorbing society. Once we begin to create an internal time and space, we begin to open out the space within ourselves so we can really listen, then we stop creating our reality, our families, our communities via the wound. And we begin to rise almost like a phoenix in terms of weaving our dreams. And there we begin to be able to see who we are and recognize our intelligence beyond ordinary, beyond conventional. Now, it's a massive arena in terms of how we can employ the use of spirituality in a much more revolutionary way. So, do we meditate to relax? Do we meditate in a generic formula? Do we meditate to just alleviate stress? When we start to ramp up the purpose behind our spiritual practices, then we can start to make massive internal breakthroughs. And when we have massive internal breakthroughs, we begin to see massive external breakthroughs on a day-to-day basis. And
Very
this
true.
can be as simple as expanding your awareness so you can genuinely be grateful for the moments in life that you witness. Because of course, if we're in a programming that is very disconnected from self-acknowledgement and awareness, then of course we are not capable of acknowledging those incredible moments in life, or incredible synchronicities or signs that make life just so incredible, so amazing.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very true. And there was something that you had told me. You always ask a child what is their purpose to, kind of help them on their path. And go into that a little bit.
As a mom?
As a mom.
Yeah, I believe it's one of the most important questions we not only ask ourselves, but we do ask our children. I think it's something we carry all of our lives, whoever we are. We remember what we were placed on the planet to be, to do, and we have a dream that cannot be extinguished. It remains with us all of our lives. Although we may attach ourselves to false realities and false agendas, one of the most important questions to ask your child is, what is your purpose? What do you really feel you are here to achieve in terms of your lifetime on the planet? And that child should be listened to and acknowledged. And I use words very carefully. We need to step into utilizing words in a more conscious way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Utilizing listening in a more conscious way.
Right.
Utilizing acknowledgement in a more conscious way. So it takes us into a very different paradigm of healing, where we are life affirming not only for ourselves, but we're life affirming for our future generations, so their foundations are strong, so they can carry forward in their dream of purpose, their dream of mission. So these children, these generations, are the intrinsic keys in terms of creating the solutions of a world that, of course, now needs acknowledgement.
And healing, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so extraordinary acknowledgement of our younger generations and of ourselves means that the solutions can be found and manifest and adhered to. The dream can be adhered to in a very sensible and practical way.
That is so beautiful, Tracey, and I want to thank you for taking your time and being on our show. We will have Tracey Ash back on again. That's all the time we have for this evening. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Awareness Magazine TV, and to our special guest from the UK, Tracey Ash. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.